when you started getting hardcore into collecting as an adult, was it straight into the Hasbro line, or were you into the LJNs first and then Hasbro, or?
This is, as a kid, obviously I played with the toys, as we all did as kids. And then in my teenage years, I was kind of, I was embarrassed to be buying these things. I'd go to Toys R Us. I'd always ask for a gift receipt because I didn't want the cashier to know they were for me. You know what I'm saying? And this is a different time period. I mean, you go back to like the early 2000s and you watch 40-Year-Old Virgin. The guy is this loser. He's this virgin, and they're making fun of all his toys and all his figures on display. Like, that's me now. I think now society has changed for the better, and now it's a more common for people to be collecting this stuff, and it's more it's more accepted. And you go to like a Comic-Con, like obviously this one got canceled this year, but it's like, it's mostly adults going to these things. Of course there's a couple of people who are bringing their kids, but it's mostly adults. And I think I just love what's going on with the world right now when it comes to collecting, and like that stigma is getting broken, and I love it now. And starting that podcast, the Major Wrestling Favorite Podcast, we have brought in a lot of adult collectors who are like, you know what, like, I do want to be collecting figures. I used to love it. Why aren't I getting them now?
Right.
So I think that's starting to happen in wrestling. I think it has happened in the past with Star Wars and other lines, but I think the wrestling fans were kind of hesitant, and we're trying to bring them in like, hey guys, it's cool. It's cool to be collecting these figures. But I think it was the LJNs and the Hasbros those were the first two lines that I rebought in mint condition, because my childhood ones were destroyed,
Right.
paint loss. If they were LJN, some of the fingers were chewed off, so it was definitely those two lines. I'm like, okay, it's time to be a big boy. Let's get these babies in mint condition. And luckily I did it like 15 years ago, because if you were to try to do the collection now, holy shit, it would cost a lot of money.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I see a loose 1, 2, 3 kid, $500 now, something there.
I would say closer to 1,000. For a couple of months ago, the 1, 2, 3 kid, like, how it is with anything. People always ask me, like, how much is this worth? It's like, it depends on the week. It depends on the week. It depends on the item. You know what I'm saying? For a couple of months ago, that 1, 2, 3 kid was spiking. And then what happens is someone sees it go for a certain amount on eBay, and they're like, oh, let me sell mine. Oh, let me sell mine. So then and then eventually it's like, oh, there's too many of them out there. And then it's like they go down, down, down. I mean, that's supply and demand. That's just how it is. It's a business. It's,
Well, especially in the last 4 months, I think everybody's sitting at home. They're all bored, and where
100%.
The beginning, everybody was worried about not having a job and not having income, and then they're home and they're spending all their income on toys and collectibles.
100%. I agree. When this happened, we were worried for our podcast, like, oh man, like what's going to happen? Because like there's a lot of merch that we sell, and we had already ordered, like, oh no, we're going to be sitting on this stuff. And like, we could not believe it was like the total opposite. Like you said, people are sitting home, they're bored, they're on eBay, they're spending money. Like our podcast, not only have our numbers gone up, our downloads, our YouTube views, but the business, what we sold, has gone up. We've had our most profitable months over these last couple of months. It's unbelievable.
Do you think it'll maintain with those numbers? I mean, like you said, it kind of changes weekly, but do you think that the values on a lot of that stuff will maintain to be on the higher level, even if things go back to normal, so to speak?
It's so hard to tell. I think because like something like, let's say the LJN or the Hasbros, there's only like an infinite amount of guys in the set. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's say there's like 90 or 100. People ask me like, oh, do you think like the Jax figures are going to go up, or the Mattels? I'm like, I don't think so, because that was during that boom period of like the Attitude Era, where there's probably like 600 Jax Bone Cruncher figures. Then you get to the Titantron style. It's like another 5. It's like you can't complete those. There's just no way. And then there's so many variants and stores exclusive. I think people like having their checklist. All right, I got 90 guys or 100 guys. And it's a lot easier to check those off, But if you have this list, there's no way you're going to complete it. I think people might get bored. Forget it. And they just might give up.
Yeah. Some of those Attitude Era figures, worst sculpts ever.
Oh, for sure. Right. And like, during that time, there was probably, with no exaggeration, from like 97, 2002, maybe 50 to 100 Stone Cold Steve Austins.
Yeah.
Right. But you talk about the Hasbro line where there was like 5 Hulk Hogans, you know what I'm saying? So like, there was just way too many product I mean, Jax, I'm sure loved it. But their wallets were heavy wallets. You know what I'm saying? But as a collector now, there's like no resale value in that Jax stuff. Kind of like, you know, like the Power of the Force Star Wars stuff, Power of the Force 2, you know, from the 90s. You go to any vintage toy store in the world and they will still have it like it's 1995 on card, less than $10, because there were so many collectors, I think, who were buying them and keeping them in the box thinking, okay, these are going to jack up just like the originals. But it was the opposite, because when the 70s and 80s, nobody thought to keep them in the box. Right. So that's what made them so valuable. Now everyone's keeping them in the box. And like to this day, 20 years later, you could get the whole set, I think, for like under $200 if you were smart about it. Yeah. It's wild.
Yeah. I think episode 1 was the turning point that all of the just like the stores, the retailers arranged the deal with Hasbro that because they took such a financial hit with the overproduction of all that stuff.
Right.
That they said, okay, you got us this time, but next time, whatever doesn't sell, we're not clearancing out. We're sending back to you, and you're crediting you for new purchase. Because yeah, there's just so much stuff. But you're right. Like even some of the toughest figures from the Power of the Force 2 series, they're not that expensive.
And don't get me wrong, I absolutely love those figures. I mean, that is the Star Wars that I grew up on because I was too young for the original. So it wasn't until like the special editions, and then these Power of the Force 2, I was like, okay, that's when I really fell in love with Star Wars. So I'm so grateful for that line and all the re-releases. And those are the figures that I grew up on. And I have them all. Trust me, I have them all in mint condition. When I mean mint condition, I mean out of the box. I'm a loose collector. Sure. But I recently bought them in the past 3 years. That's how I know how cheap they are, because I bought the whole thing, vehicles included. I know, of course, there's a couple rare ones in there that like, shit, this is going to put me back. But most of them, I was paying more for the shipping than I was for the actual figure. And I'm talking on card.
But you ripped them all open anyway, right?
Ripped them all open anyway. I don't buy things to resell things. Have I ever resold things? Sure. Do I buy certain things to resell them? Sure. But the majority of my collection it's for me. You know, I have this toy room, and you know, I've seen your house. Yours is the same. I don't know if you feel the same way, but I walk in there, it's like an escape. You know, it's like it's my safe spot. These childhood feelings. People are like, what do you do in that toy room? I'm like, I don't do anything. There's no TV in there. It's wall, just full of toys. Yeah, and when I'm in there and I'm like reorganized and stuff, like to me, it's almost like therapeutic. You know what I'm saying? If I get something new, I'm like, well, where am I going to put them? You know, because you only have so much real estate, so much room. You know, I've seen your stuff. You have more stuff than I do. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, where are you going to put the stuff?
I'm running out of room, though. You need to help me out and put some in the garage.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, you know, when I moved from New York to Orlando, I'm like, all right, I want a room, a toy room. So I turned one of the spare bedrooms into a toy room. But I've outgrown that completely. Now I've turned my quote unquote office into a toy room. And now my garage is just like yours, just filled with toys.
You had two full-size Hanan carbonates in your garage, didn't you?
I still have one. I have one in my house. I have one for sale. If anyone's listening, lives in the Florida area, I got one in my garage. It's bad. But you know, it's my addiction. It's you know, it's the thrill of the hunt. Like right now, I've been going crazy looking for those new NECA Ninja Turtle figures at Walmart. It's crazy. And like, it's the highest of highs when you find what you're looking for. But when you don't, if you drive somewhere, you drive a long way and it's not there. Oh man, does that suck?
Yeah, I can't tell you.
That's the game.
Check mine. But it's not there. Either it's not there or somebody's already come in and they pick up everything that's there. So it's and there's less places to get toys at retail, you know, brick and mortar places. So I think more people are dumping into those locations to try to get it. I mean,
100%. And now there's certain websites now, like a Brick Seek, where you can find out what store has exactly what. You know, it's crazy. Yeah. I listen. So I went to Walmart the other day. I was looking for that new Casey Jones Raphael figure because the Brick Seek said there's one in stock. So I walked in and like I could just tell because the Turtles figures are in like the video game section. not
Yeah.
with not with the regular figures. So I'm like trying to find like the exact aisle. I can tell there's this other adult male who's, I'm like, oh, this guy's definitely eyeing the turtles, right? And we're looking. We both don't see it, and then I see him walk into the toys. I'm like, all right, I got to beat him there. So I take like a shortcut. I cut him off. I like maybe they put him in the wrong section, but they weren't there anyway. I'm like, oh, you looking for the turtles? Like, yeah. I'm like, all right, good luck, man. Like, just two collectors on the hunt looking for some turtles.
That's where I met one of my best friends was when Power of the Force 2 came out. We both kind of came in. It was like sailing ships in the toy aisle to look at Star
Right.
Wars. And we just stopped and kind of eyeballed each other to see if we were missing anything before the other person grabbed it. But yeah.
Right. Exactly.